Hi guys, I'm here a couple minutes early, so you're welcome to ask any questions in chat before we start. I'm home with a kid home sick from school. Let me see. It's given me. There it goes. Okay. Um, I have a kid sick from school, so we're streaming Netflix in the other room, and I'm hoping that doesn't impact the quality of this. Today we're talking about kids on keto, people that don't want to lose weight on keto, and we're talking about going out to eat, which is something that if you want to tune out the other two parts, if it doesn't apply to you, then come back in like 20 minutes. And when I record or when I put this recording up, I'll go ahead and put um, the timestamp of when we switched over. So just a couple of minutes and we'll get started. All right. Well, kids on keto. So the ketogenic diet has actually most been studied for children that have drug resistant epilepsy. So it is something that has been studied in children pretty often. When you look up kids on keto, a lot of the studies that come up have the 4-to-1 diet that we've talked about before, which limits calories, protein, and liquids. And so that was the original form of the diet where they just knew that that slowed down seizures. And so they thought that was something that was worth continuing. But now they've done a lot of different testing on what works for kids with keto and what doesn't. And so now they don't restrict liquids anymore. You still do get a lot of the people that are restricting protein. And so it's that 4-to-1. But a lot of people are putting their kids on keto now that it's kind of being more studied for chronic health conditions. There's a lot of people that have their naturopaths that will ask their child to go on keto, or they will do it themselves, like we're doing for neurological cognitive issues. And so something that you want to watch with that is you have to expect water weight loss. And I know a lot of these kids, like a lot of times their digestive systems aren't great, so they don't have weight to lose. Um, and there you can lose about, so my 35-pound, I did all three of my kids just kind of as an experiment and to do this for all of us to see if it was something that we all benefited from. And it was really just my daughter and I that benefited from it. But I put my boys on it as well. So my 35-pound 4-year-old lost about 1 pound, and then my older kids lost like 2 or 3 pounds, and they were about 80, 85, 88 to start. And then they gained during while we were on keto. They were also home for the summer, so they tend to like gain more during the summer. I don't know if it's the light or the activity or what, but they always have growth spurts during the summer. And so they definitely, if you don't restrict their protein, they're not going to have that stunted growth that is associated in a lot of the studies and probably is a concern for a lot of doctors. If you're not noticing that they're restricting protein and they're restricting liquids, because kidney issues are another problem with kids on keto, and that's shown in the literature. And that's also associated with the water, that they are not they were restricting the amount of liquids that these kids could have. So just like adults, you're going to want to supplement your kids with the electrolytes, so potassium, magnesium, and sodium. And so for my kids, that looks like just extra salting their food. And I salt their food with the potassium chloride as well. And then they take magnesium in the form of natural calm, just mixed into water. It kind of tastes like lemonade. And so they're totally fine with that. So that's what you want to watch for. They will drop the weight, and that can be terrifying. And it is water weight, though, because there's like 0% way that your child can lose even 1 pound overnight. Um, and then what you can do to promote weight gain, and this is both for kids and adults, we're going to go into that section now, is you can, so giving the digestive system a rest, that's also kind of counterintuitive. But if they're, especially kids that like they don't feel good when they eat, if you can give them that good overnight fast of even just 12 hours. If you look in my interview with Tyler, it's by the lake, and the audio isn't super great. But if you look at my interview with Tyler, you'll see that he I'm just checking to make sure no one's emailed me that this wasn't working for them. But sorry, you'll see that he does a 12 to 14-hour fast overnight. He's a skinny guy. He's been doing keto to put weight on. He was having a hard time putting weight on, even on like a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. And so keto has stabilized his energy and helped him to gain weight. And he says that having that digestive system break of 12 to 14 hours overnight is something that really helps him to maintain his weight. And so this is good for both kids and adults. For my kids, to encourage them to eat what I make at meals and not just want snacky things, which tend to be nuts, which are kind of more irritating to the digestive system. If you're someone or your kids are someone that has a hard time putting weight on, then limiting the nuts and like kind of doing more nut butter and less of the crunchy nuts. If you find that you're just going to have to kind of like limit in between snacking and limit that kind of thing and really get them to eat their meals and get you to eat your meals. So like healthy fats and protein and some cooked vegetables can be easier to digest for people that have a hard time with digestion. If digestion is really an issue, I would recommend the GAPS intro diet. It's something that it's going to be really hard for you to get enough calories on that as well. So you just kind of have to, it's like we're talking about in our least restrictive diet series, is see what your symptoms are compared to the restriction of the diet and see what you can do. Digestive enzymes can definitely help. So fats are typically easy to digest. And if your kid can swallow pills, digestive enzymes are great to try. If you can get them to somehow eat digestive enzymes, like mixed in with peanut butter or something, then that can also be helpful. Probiotics can help their meal. A lot of times, people that if you eat a lot or your kids eat a lot and they're just not putting the weight on, it's because there's something messed up in that digestive system. So it's just passing through them. So probiotics can help that. Digestive enzymes like ox bile is one that is mm, I don't know, is one of the ones that's like a more natural enzyme that I feel comfortable taking, and that can really help with digesting all the fats that are in the ketogenic diet. And a lot of people, if they've had their is it gallbladder removed, they'll take digestive enzymes as well. But eventually, your liver will kind of catch up and secrete the bile right into your stomach based on what you need with the ketogenic diet. It just might be a little bit of a transition period. And so, if you feel like your food's really going through you, digestive enzymes and probiotics are definitely good things to try. Another, if you're having a hard time putting weight on and you're on keto, um, another thing that you might want to consider is eliminating dairy or eliminating nuts. And I'm going to work on a nut free class for you guys because that is like either dairy or nuts is those are kind of a restrictive meal plan. But if it's something that you can just sort of heal your gut a little bit while you're on keto and getting all those brain benefits, then it's something that your body will really appreciate and you'll be able to keep that weight on afterwards. So fats and then cooked vegetables over raw will just kind of help you to like be able to dissolve some fats in like ghee if you're dairy free or coconut oil, salting your food definitely. So that's our it's definitely doable and lots of people do the ketogenic diet. There's a lot of people that do it for weight loss initially and then they find out that the mental health benefits, they don't want to go back into depression, anxiety, that kind of thing. And so they stay on it even when they're at their ideal weight. And it's just kind of a learning curve. Like you do need to keep things simple in the kitchen at first so that you're not overwhelmed trying to cook all these new recipes and this whole different way of eating as you don't have that weight, like that body fat to pull from. So just keeping your recipes simple and maybe it's not always going to be your favorite food, but instead of thinking that like, oh, I don't want to eat that, you think like this is what I need to do right now for my health. And so that kind of a just like kind of a and like I'm not really trying to lose weight, but I can maintain my weight. But I'm okay skipping a meal if like stuff didn't work out or if I'm late or if I'm over at a friend's house and they're having pizza for dinner. It's fine for me to skip a meal and draw from those fat stores. But for those of you who are doing this, sorry, for weight loss and you don't have that ability, then just making sure you always have jerky, you always have different stuff that's ketogenic friendly with you. And even if it's not your favorite, even if you don't feel like eating it, it's just like we'd go to the gym or we'd exercise, even if we didn't feel like it. You just have to sometimes, not every meal is going to be perfect. And I've kind of taken that stance with my kids as well when I was doing this is they got sick of eggs and they got sick of some of the food, or like I'd be recipe testing for you guys and they weren't a super fan of some of the stuff that I did, and that's okay. Um, and I told them, I'm just like, probably another time we'll have something that you love, but today this is what I've made and this is what you need to eat. And so it's, I don't know, it's kind of like our culture sort of tells us that every bite should be exactly our favorite bite of food. And if you're doing this, if you need to grow or your kids need to grow, then it's okay to sometimes be like, today we are having fried eggs. I'm sorry that you don't want them. And you can say that to yourself as well. So that with the supplements and giving your digestive system a rest between meals, so you're truly hungry and can fill up on those meals. Some kind of intermittent fasting, which intermittent fasting is really any kind of fasting. So even a 12-hour fast overnight can give your body that reset that it needs. So now we're going to talk about going out to eat on the ketogenic diet, and this is where keto is a lot easier than GAPS, because GAPS is something where you have to, like, you can't have even half a teaspoon of sugar because it feeds that pathogenic bacteria we're trying to starve out. You can keep those brain benefits, you can keep those weight loss benefits and go out to eat. There's a few precautions that you're going to want to take. And the first one is salad dressings. If you can just like put a little jar of salad dressing in your purse, like I have these little plastic ones that I put in the kids' lunches, and then I also put it in a Ziploc so it doesn't make a mess in my purse, just in case it opens. But if you can bring your own salad dressing, that's a great way. There's usually tons of hidden sugars in salad dressings. If you're at a higher end restaurant or you feel comfortable asking for the ingredients in their salad dressings, then that's something that you definitely can use from them. But it's just, salad dressings are a common source of additional sugar when you go out to eat. So just like asking, usually there'll be like a protein, a vegetable, and then a starch. And so you can ask for double vegetables. You can ask for double vegetables with like drizzled in olive oil or butter if you can do butter. With butter, I tend to, I guess it doesn't really matter for keto, but I would probably ask them to use real butter because sometimes they'll do like a blend that's half butter and half margarine or all margarine. And that's just, it's going to be high in those inflammatory foods that you want to avoid. So if you can have double vegetables with your own salad dressing or double vegetables with butter, then that's definitely a good thing to do. Bunless burgers, that's usually my go-to. A lot of places will do guacamole burgers right now. There's a place right down the road that I love that has great guacamole burgers. And I just ask for the bun. And because we're not celiac, like you might be, and you might have to deal with those food allergies separately, which is where you need to request a clean pan in the kitchen. And you probably know all that stuff. But for keto, we're not, it's like a way of eating, but it's not a food allergy. So a lot of the times, about half the time, a bun comes on the burger, even though I ask them not to put it on. And so I just take it right back off. And it's not a big deal. Nobody looks at me weird. Like it seems like half the world's on keto right now or gluten free. So it's definitely not weird. They usually apologize and just like take it away right away, but it doesn't bother me. So we can just take that bun off. If there's like a few crumbs stuck to your hamburger or your cheese, like it's not, that's probably not enough that's gonna bump you out of ketosis. If you are concerned, like if you are eating the salad dressing or maybe there's a little bit of breading, like sometimes they'll put a little bit of flour on steak before they grill it. If there's a little bit of breading, you can't get like deep fried, like fish and chips type things. That has too many carbs and that will bump you out of ketosis. But if you like pull the breading off and you're concerned that maybe your carb count's a little high from like the tomatoes and um, the salad dressing and whatever, you can take some MCT oil. So that's something that you can take right before your meal or right before you leave the house. And then your body will immediately turn that into ketones. And that will keep you able to have like a little bit more of carb tolerance. So the MCT oil for soups are something that you want to watch the ingredients for. And so unless they're listing the actual ingredients that are in their soup, a lot of times there will be like starches like cornstarch or other thickeners that the soup is made with. And those can, depending on how much is in them, those can bump you out of ketosis. And so that's where your MCT oil can come in, like if you're having a small cup of soup. But if you're going to be having a big bowl of soup and that's your meal, I wouldn't assume that they are carb free, even though we can make like a delicious broccoli cheese soup is coming in our comfort food menu that I'm working on right now. And so there's a lot of delicious soups that we can make. Croutons obviously are a no-go. And like croutons and salad, like you can just pick those out and set them to the side. Like a lot of times you can ask for no croutons and probably about half the time they're going to come anyway. And so I just like politely set them to the side of my plate. It's not a big deal. Everybody's used to all sorts of different food stuff now. So that's good. Yeah. So soups are something you're going to want to look at, but pretty much any green vegetables are going to be like a better go-to. But if you want to eat like 4 French fries off of someone else's plate, or you want to order a side of French fries and just eat 4 of them, if that's something that you want to do, that's where the ketogenic diet really has that leeway. Where as long as if you haven't eaten any carbs all day, if you've just eaten like meat and eggs and cheese, and you can even have like half a beer if you want to when you go out. I definitely wouldn't recommend that from a health standpoint, but having half a glass of wine or half a beer, like usually a glass of red wine will be able to fit into most people's carb allowance for the day, as long as you didn't go overboard that night or the day before. Um, uh, Leading up to that dinner is what I mean. So there's a lot of leeway that you can do in the ketogenic diet, and you can just decide what's better for you going out. Um, and then taking that MCT oil, if you're afraid you're going to go a little bit over your carbs. And I find that if you go out and you're a little bit over your carbs, having them at night, your body just tends to like process them all from your liver. And then you're right back in ketosis when you wake up in the next morning. So there's that, asking about ingredients, and there's just lots of stuff. Like I don't think I've ever been to a restaurant. If you go to sushi, you can get sashimi, which is expensive, to fill up on raw fish and not have that, at least that the rice to fill you up a little bit. So you can get sashimi. A lot of places will do like cucumber rolls, where they'll just like thinly slice cucumber, put it around sashimi. Soy sauce has a little bit of gluten, a little bit of carbs in it, but if you're just like mixing some with some wasabi, it's probably not going to be enough that's going to bump you out. And again, your MCT oil can just kind of provide that little buffer for you. Trying to think of other places. In and Out will do protein style, which is that's my go-to when we're driving. Is In and Out is a bunless burger, and they're really good. Like they wrap them in actually quite a bit of lettuce, and that's good. And you can get as many patties, so you can say like a 4x4 protein style, which is 4 patties and 4 cheeses. So that's actually like a huge amount of calories. If that's something that you need a lot of protein and something more, then I usually just get 1 patty and cheese, and their sauce has a little bit of sugar in it. And so you can say no sauce, or if you have that allowance, you can have their sauce in there as well. So In and Out, pretty much any fast food. The burgers are going to have a little bit of starch in them, and this is where we get in trouble with GAPS. But for keto, they're not going to be so bad that it's going to be like if you're starving and you're grumpy and you need to eat and there's a McDonald's and you have to go drive through and grab the burgers, it's not going to be your best meal, and it's not going to make you feel amazing, but it's also probably not going to bump you out of ketosis. Processed cheese is higher in carbs, and the fast food is going to use processed cheese. So you're just going to want to watch that and kind of and most places have the nutrition information if you want to look up the app, and like that Chronometer that we looked in last week's workshop. I think they probably have a lot of the fast food stuff if you need that. If you're at like airports or even gas stations, there's a lot of little nut packets. Almonds are going to be the lowest in carbs. Peanuts aren't too high in carbs either. Cashews and pistachios get a little carby, again, depending on your tolerance and what else you've eaten that day. Jerky usually has added sugar, but again, for what it is, and you can down a bunch of water and it'll like expand in your stomach. That's not a horrible choice. A lot of places are having like peeled hard-boiled eggs. And so that's super easy. A lot of breakfasts, like if you go to a hotel and then you have their continental breakfast, be careful with their scrambled eggs, because a lot of times they add pancake mix to them, to make them a little bit more fluffy. But if you see a hard boiled egg, you know there's nothing else in there. And then a lot of times on the yogurt, you can find one that's a lower carb count. Like there's some I think I was looking, they're like the Greek yogurt. If you can find Greek yogurt that's whole fat and not non-fat, is going to have a little bit lower carb count. So you might be able to fit some of that into your breakfast. Black coffee, Some places will do whipping cream in their coffee, and so I kinda know the coffee shops. I like drive-through coffee, that's, like, my weakness. So I know the coffee shops around town that will give me black coffee, and they'll put whipping cream in it. Some of them only have half and half, and half and half is a little bit higher in carbs. Whipping cream is definitely lower and preferable. And so that's coffee shops. We've done airport food, fast food. Steak places are really going to be your best bet because you can get like steak, you can get burgers, you can get chicken, you can get fish, and a lot of it is just like simply grilled. There might be like trace amounts of starches in the seasonings, but it's not going to be something that's really enough starches to bump you out of ketosis if you're just eating that much on meat. Try to add extra fats. I feel like if you can get an extra couple pats of butter, that'll kind of balance out the protein and the vegetables a little bit and make it a little bit more of a balanced meal since you're not eating the starches that come with it. So that's our going out to eat on keto. I'm kind of so I'll try and think of a few more places that I can eat. Seafood is usually good. Steak places are usually good. Fast food is doable. Definitely not. Oh, Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's is the sandwich shop. It's like a chain. We have one here in Bozeman, and they'll do the unwich, which is like it's wrapped in like a ton of lettuce, but it's really good. And they put lots of vegetables in it, so it might be like they put tomatoes in it, but you can ask for it without tomatoes, and you can ask for double meat. And if it does cost extra money, just like that's the price that you're not paying the doctor. And so that's kind of how I rationalize it. It's like I would pay that much for a medication that made me feel this way, or I would pay that much for a doctor's visit to try and figure out the issues that I'm having. I'm definitely going to pay like $1 extra for guacamole at Chipotle. Chipotle will do double meat, and I think it does cost a little bit extra. Guacamole has those healthy fats. Their sour cream, it's a little bit carby, but it's something that you can probably fit into your carb counts most days. So Chipotle, Panda Express is the one we have next to Chipotle. I don't think they have anything really keto friendly there. A lot of their, I think all of their stuff is breaded and fried. So the breaded and fried stuff is, if that's your only option, then getting the stuff that's breaded and fried without the sauce, you can actually pull the breading off. And so tedious, but it's just like an accommodation that we have to do. We all have to make accommodations for stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you are welcome to answer them now. This one isn't a super long webinar. Hopefully everyone figured out their electrolytes because we went over that the other two workshops. And that's really, even like I've gotten a few emails from people saying like I don't feel good. I'm like, well, what's your electrolytes look like and how much water are you drinking? And it's like every time they've always said, well, I didn't get the potassium, which is the no salt or the low salt, excuse me, that we talked about extensively in the workshop number 1, or I haven't been drinking water. And so that's just something that we have to do because our body isn't holding on to enough water. The salt is gone from our bodies, and our body's not holding on to water. So we just need to take in a little bit more salt. And that's something else that a lot of places you can get salt packets. And so if you're feeling a little blah, just even like McDonald's has salt packets. I save the salt, like In-N-Out will give you salt packets, and I save those in my car just in case you're feeling dehydrated and you're feeling like water's going right through you taking those salt packets. But it doesn't look like anyone has any questions. If you do, then let me know. Next week, we are going into plateaus and weight loss, and we're going to kind of talk about the mechanics of weight loss, talk about different things that can hold up weight loss, talk about getting through stalls. If we've just been holding the same weight for like a month after seeing progress at first. And so we're going to talk about that next time. I will see you next Wednesday. And thank you guys for joining me. I'll talk to you later.